Hi guys, this is Nate from Reach 3D Printers. I'm just going over the kit and what you'll receive. You're basically going to be getting a box full of components. So we got a ramps holder, and this ramps holder will have the stepper drivers installed. Everything will be preloaded for you, so you don't have to worry about getting those backwards and burning them out. In that, you'll also have your Teflon tube, and it also has these pneumatic couplings included. So you'll have two of those. You'll have your PCB board for your, if you ordered the upgrade kit. It'll also have the thermistor taped on. You'll have hot end power wires, not hot end, but thermistor power wires. You're also going to have a little bag full of parts. So you're going to have a Z coupling here. This is your lead screw, some G22 timing belt pulleys. You're also going to have a power supply. This may or may not be in this box depending on the upgrade. You're going to have 30 of these 625ZZ bearings, 4 of these angle brackets, and pay special attention to one of them has nubs removed on both sides, where the other 3 only have the nubs removed on one side. You're going to have, I think there's 12 wheels, several bags of hardware. Hardware will have M3 nuts, your about 60 spacer or washers. You can have M5 bolts. These are going to be your T-nuts. I think there's about 30 in there, something like that. I'm going to have about 24 of these M5 nuts. And these are 1/4-inch spacers for the wheels. Those wheels are basically these guys, like they're all over the place. Alright, to continue, you're also going to have a long 2040. You're going to have a short 2040. Let's get out of there. These are your table rails. There's 2 of them, and that is for these guys right here. You're also going to have a proximity sensor. This individual pin is the one that leads to the actual limit pin on the ramps. These other 2 are going to lead to your terminals, your power terminals. They do have resistors soldered in line, so those will be fully heat shrinked, so they don't short or anything. You'll have 2 belts, a long and a short. These are GT2 tiny belts. You're going to have your hot end. The block may look a little different than this aluminum one. This kit was kind of pieces that I threw together because I ran out of components, so to do a demo. You're going to have a limit switch. I will pre-solder and install them into these plastic parts. So these things will be done already. We can zoom in on that. Another limit switch. This one's for the table. It's shorter. And those will be pre-installed. They will have the ends on them ready to go. Just plug it in. And a fan. This will go either to your D9 if you want to control the fan, or it can be plugged directly into the 12-volt constant. I should probably show you what that 12-volt constant is real quick, in case I didn't identify it in the videos very well. There's basically 2 terminals that I've wired. There's a set of pins that comes out. It is 12 volts. And then there are 2 terminals for, a negative and a positive. So I just wired that so you could run your LCDs or LEDs and all kinds of stuff off of it. Let's see, we also have a 300mm M8 lead screw. You're going to have 2 2020s. If you'll notice, one is slightly longer than the other. This one is for the upper gantry. This one is for the table. So the longer one is used for the table to try to get as much distance out of that as possible. Double check that. Yeah. And the shorter one goes up top on the gantry here. Alright. Of course, your bed. This might not be perfectly square, or not square, but the same dimensions. It could be. I'm just not sure yet. I'll find out whenever I do my final part orders. Let's see, we got some Loom. If you got the upgrade kit, you'll get an extra set of Loom for the wire loom for the heated bed. Otherwise, you'll just have one long one. You also have a USB cable, and you're going to have 4 motors. Each set of motors is going to have a different length of wire. Your shortest wire is going to be closest to the ramps. So it's going to extend far enough. It's going to extend far enough so that you can slide the ramps out and drop it down to work on it. Your next shortest one is then going to be for the Z coupling. So these are all going to be cut slightly longer so that the wires can be routed back in on the inside. Then you'll have a slightly longer one that goes out on the extruder, and finally your last motor will be up top. The actual motors you'll receive are going to be the type that has a plug-in. They're not going to be hardwired to the coils inside. Like, they're not going to have like these guys. They're going to have plugs on them. Okay, we'll continue. These are also motor wires, so we'll just set them over there for now. You're also going to get a bag of parts. If you notice this large purple thing, this is a ramps holder for underneath. It's pretty good size. I'm pretty sure I'm going to include those. I'm like 99% sure. And then this is a spool holder. These are standard screw sizes, but it's just a spool holder. And I'm not sure if you guys have actually seen how that works, but that's really all there is to it. I want for as simple as possible. This may not be the most flawless setup, but honestly it works really good. And it feeds down really well right into the geared extruder. So I just rolled with it because it worked so well. In those parts you're going to have, well, I'd have to open these up. I might do that in a few minutes. You're also going to have a set of plates, aluminum plates, and a little user manual. I haven't finished the user manual, but I can just show you kind of what's going on. Table of contents. I'm going to have a few little bits of information. This is going to be all your parts, which I've gone through and done, gone through, and I've made a few notes, and I've got some stuff to adjust, and also the table assembly is missing, so I have to get that included and extend the manual out. There's some printer setup for bed leveling, how to prep your surface, how to load the filament, software setup. This is just a quick run through on the 3D printer only. I'll probably include a small section about laser and mill, but this is primarily to be focused at 3D printing. So here's your first print, walks you through the program, how to prepare everything. I'll also have a troubleshooting guide. This is some parts. This is my final part counts on everything, so I was just guess I could get a close-up of that if anybody's interested in pausing it there. I can keep it steady enough. Anyways, that's just part counts. So that won't actually be on there. It'll be like a awesome picture of me or something. Alright, you're also going to need some tools of your own, unless we do the bit driver for the stretch goal. So you're going to need, like, I can't remember what size that is, an 4.0 metric hex, 2.5, a 3.0. It's not really letting me show it very well. That's a 3. Pair of pliers is going to be good just to grab a hold of bolts. Some of them are kind of a tight area to grab onto. You'll need a Phillips. There's just 2 screws, and you also need a flathead precision screwdriver. Those are for the terminal screws underneath here. Sometimes they're Phillips, sometimes they're flat. It's on and off sometimes. a blade just to do a little cleanup in case the plastic has a stray strand or something. And you're also going to need some pretty small bits. One of them is a 1.5 metric, and I believe this one is standard. The 1.5 and this one, which I think is like maybe a, I'm not sure on that one, basically is for the Z coupling and for the GT2 pulleys. So that's basically it. It's kind of a disarrayed mess at the moment, but I guess I can open each bag and kind of go into detail on them about what's in there. But it's impossible to see. There's going to be like 2 silver bolts. Those are for the extruder setup. There's the other longer one. So because they have to countersink in with those hex caps. And then inside this guy, you got 2 springs for the extruder, and you got 4 smaller springs for the bed. There may be nylon screws, and those specifically would be for holding down the ramps, just because they're non-conductive. So I don't think there's anything else too unique in there other than that. I think that pretty much covers it. I will go ahead and start the assembly. Alright, thanks guys. Alright guys, we're back. I am now showing you what you get in the parts. Plates, plastic. So we've got a table plate. So it's like table wheel plate. It's like this guy that holds the actual wheels on there. So I call it the table wheel plate. This is your YZE motor plate, and that's your extruder. So YZE motor plate. It's that big long one. This goes underneath the plate. It kind of sandwiches this block. This is your extruder block. These two are both the same. It's like your gantry plates. So you have the main one up front with the edge on it, and then the one without the point. That one's in the back for support. This is your X motor plate. So that would go right there. And you have your carriage plate. This is called the carriage. So basically it just rests back there. Then you have your bearing, X belt bearing plates. The front is shorter and the back one's longer. It's also important to note that 2 holes are closer together. Those are for back here. Alright, what else we got here? We also have our table support plates, I guess is what I'll call them. So basically those guys. I think that covers all the metal plates. Next we have our ramps holder. So the ramps just sets directly on there. These recesses are for solder. USB comes through here. These are the terminal screws I was talking about. So you can hook up like 12-volt terminal supply to anything you want. Okay, this is your proximity sensor holder. So it goes like something like that. This is the old version. I think this one's a lot better, more stable, solid. I don't know, I just like it better. We designed that thing probably like 6 or 7 times. This is your Endstop support, and that was for your X. This is for your Y Endstop support. Let's see if I can figure out this one. Okay, so basically it slides onto the end of this bed rail, and it holds this bolt here, and this bolt runs back, and if it didn't hit the back of that, hits that switch. So, and your other Endstop, it's like that. And then this is your Z Endstop or auto leveling. Okay, these are Z clamps. This is, I would say this is the weakest part of the whole system as far as an all metal system. This right here goes like that. So you got one on the front, one on the back. Something I haven't really shown you guys, which is really cool feature of this printer, is you can pull this bowl off, right? Well, you can also just lift the gantry. The entire gantry comes off in like a split second. So you can set this down and you can work on it if there's something you're wanting to mess with. And then to get it back on, all you have to do is just carefully rest those wheels in there, make sure it falls through. Bam. Now, one little thing is it kind of has to be seated right here. It just barely hangs below right there. But surprisingly, when I was milling with it, it didn't affect it. And why that has to see is because, see those bolts down there? Bolts stick out the bottom. Those are going to go through those holes. If you're doing milling and you do not want that, I call that crash prevention. If you're taking this bed down and you're zipping down really fast and you hit that bottom of that thing, it'll lift off there instead of slamming into your bed. If you don't want that and you want a solid contact for milling, take the bolts and go up into this plastic block. They will thread in very tight. So, all right, that was the Z clamp, and we covered these guys. These are your hot end clamps. So basically, it's this block right here. There's not a lot to it. It just couples the hot end. Like, I really tried to focus on keeping all of these parts as simple as possible. Fan bracket goes like that, right? This is an X belt block is what I'm calling it. Basically, it goes something like that. And so the this piece right here rides down inside there, so the belts loop around it, come up through the back, and a bolt comes in and presses the belts together because the teeth get pushed together. So that thing is not going anywhere, and it's really easy to tighten. You just loosen this bolt right here, and you got to keep that nut. There's a nut on the back side, and you can just pull this thing really taut, like twist it, tighten that. If you pull the belt in this direction, it'll kind of grab the nut so it doesn't turn when you're tightening it back up. All right, that's that. This is the extruder. Okay, so the extruder kind of sits like this. Inside this extruder block, it's actually supposed to bubble out right where those two holes are in the center. This may be threaded in the future. I'm not positive on that, but that is where, get this piece here. That is where this coupling threads into. It would probably be pretty easy to make that threaded, so I may have to do that. That is where the filament enters. I guess I could show you where this goes. Basically goes below here. It's down in that. Down in that. So the filament, it's kind of behind this arm here, so it might be hard to see. Yeah, well, anyways. Okay, so that's the filament block. Two bolts run through that, and if you haven't guessed it already, it sits something like that, but underneath here, something like that. It's basically kind of how it goes. All right, this guy is your tensioner arm. So this is your hinge, and how that part works, what this is going to be below it on the bottom side. This guy hinges here, and then of course this is your top plate. So you got a nice solid metal frame for the hinging. You're going to sandwich a bearing in here, and then this guy is your top support plate to keep that bearing sandwiched. And then this spacer right here, it goes down in there. We'll get to that later, but it basically goes down in there because you need to seat the filament drive gear. Needs like something to space it so that it, sorry, I'm really shaking the camera. Well, when done properly. It sits right there in the middle there. So anyways, it's basically that. And then you got your big and small gear. I found it was easier for assembly to have the small gear upside down, because you could assemble this whole thing and then in the end just come in and drop this that way. Before I had it right side up and I couldn't get this collar past the teeth of the large gear. So by reversing the teeth and flipping it, it made it easy. So now they operate like that. All right, and of course I'll probably have these assembled. I'm not 1000% sure on that. I think that's it on all the individual components. And I also forgot to mention before, this is your power. I mentioned it, but I didn't show it in the kit. This is your power transfer from the ramp supply, 12 volt right here, to power the terminals, basically. I think that's everything. All right, stay tuned. Assembly is now. Hi guys, I forgot to mention one thing. I just showed you how the extruder could be lifted right off of there if you wanted to take it off to work on it. As long as you get that brass fitting to drop back down. One thing I didn't show, and I haven't really mentioned much about, is the table. If you'll notice, that table is like the only thing that really sticks way out and would make this thing difficult to pack away. Well, I got a solution for that. The belts are held on by flat T-nuts, and so as the bolt comes through, it just presses the belt against the inside of that. Well, if you pull off the back one, you can simply slide the table right off. And then when you're wanting to pack up, you can take this whole thing, pack it up nice and flat, you can pop this guy off, and this whole thing can go in a really small, flat briefcase. That's basically what I'm getting to. So that's kind of a neat little feature that I hadn't really got a chance to advertise yet or say much about. It's not too much of a trick to get it back on. Let me see if I can show how fast it can be done. It can't be done with one hand though. Okay, that's almost a good angle. And that's a decent angle. Okay, so basically here's how it's done. You pull the belt flat inside of that. You just pull it flat in there. Then you put the belt beside the rubber wheels, or the Delrin wheels. These are going to be Delrin for sure. This is good quality stuff. And you take the belt, wrap it between the bearing, around the MK2 gear. It's still holding it with your fingers. Just gently slide the table straight through. Boom. And that table's back on in literally like 10 seconds. And then you have to take the nut, make sure it's turned the right direction, slide it in, and I just finger tighten these. I mean, you don't want them loose, but you don't want to like crank them down, otherwise you could damage the belt. And we're back, just like that. So the table has got a cool feature in that it's very quickly removable. Same with the gantry. Gantry pops off. This guy is kind of a little more challenging to remove if you're trying to take the carriage off of the gantry, but it's not horrendous or anything. There's one or two tricks that makes it easy if you're wanting to change stuff, modify, mess around with it. So anyways, okay, now we're ready for the assembly. Alright. Prior to assembly, I decided to go ahead and sort the bolts. So, you know, we've got our 60mm bolts and the silver ones for the extruder, other M5s. There's a whole bunch of these M5 by 10s, and then M5. These are regular T-nuts. These are flattened T-nuts. Those are specifically for the belt. Again, you've got these guys. One is missing nubs on both sides, so that goes in a special spot. Longer M3s There won't be any distinction between silver and black ones down the road. Those are just what I had on hand. M3x8s, M3 nuts, maybe some nylons. Those might be metal. Depends what I do with the ramps holder. These are very specific washers. They are 10 by 5 by 1. So that's 10 diameter, 5 interior diameter, and 1 millimeter thick. And that 1 millimeter thickness has to be spot on because it provides the gap between the bearings in the wheels. So these have to be perfect. And some of them may have a little bit of edges on them, like they may have a little lip. So some of them are going to be a little better than others. So if you find that you assemble a wheel set and it's got a grain to it, you may want to switch out for a different one. There's only 12 of them that have to be like really nice. So, you know, take your time making sure you get a really nice, good set. But most of them, very few of them actually cause any grinding issues, and they shouldn't affect the prints. They just have a different feel to them. So these are actually pretty solid bearings. I may go with Open Builds bearings, but these are really nice bearings. There's definitely a lot cheaper ones out there, but I couldn't necessarily spend like, you know, $2.50 on a bearing because, you know, with 30 of them, that's quite expensive. I can't keep my prices down. But 625 YZE bearings are super easy to find. If one starts giving you trouble, you can always just replace it. They're like 25 cents a piece or something like that. I may go with higher quality bearings inside here because there's so much more stress applied on this. There's 1, 2, 3. I think there's only 3 in there. So I may do some really nice bearings on the extruder, something that are closer to $1 a piece. Alright, so continue. We got their spacers, and, you know, again, we got a Z coupling. Just wanted to space it out so that it was easier to just grab. Oh, I need an M5 nut. Boom. So it's going to be convenient for everybody to have these little toolboxes. All the electronics are just kind of piled up here. There's not a whole lot of them there for the build. This guy's going to be last, and so is the power supply, USB, all that stuff is last. So I kind of organized it according to how soon I would need it. Alright, let's get started on the build. I guess we're almost there. Alright guys. Hi guys, this is Nate. I Reach 3D Printers. I don't like to talk on camera much, but we're going to go ahead and start a build. We're going to knock out this build pretty quick. I think I can do it in 2.5 hours, something like that, maybe 3. I probably won't stop a whole lot, but I'll be narrating a little bit, just mentioning a little bit of what I'm doing in the background. So hopefully you guys enjoy, and it doesn't take me an insane amount of time. I like to go on and on and on. All right, see you in a second. Alright, ready for the printer build. Alright, if you guys have any questions, just raise your hands. Alright, first things first, I'm going to start with all of the wheels. I found it was a lot easier to just, hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, pretty good. I kind of sorted, I know that this is the carriage kit, what I'm going to need for the carriage. This is like the extruder, this is wheel, this is the gantry, this is table, ramps over here, tools over here. I'm going to start with the wheels because I'm going to assemble all those all at once. Super fast that way. Could shave off at least 10 or 15 minutes. So I dump out pretty much all but 3 of these bearings. 3 back in there, and you can even set them up there by the extruder kit. You can just kind of like spread them around, and then what you're going to do is just kind of, it's a really tight fit, but you're going to shove these into that Delrin. they don't go in super easy either. They are very snug. You can either do it from leaving the bearing on the table, pushing the wheel down. I found that to be the easiest. So you just got to get into a routine. Alright, I'm not going to make you guys watch the whole thing. I was thinking about doing some time-lapse stuff, but maybe a 2-hour video would be cool too. Alright, so we have 16 V wheels to do. Alright, make sure those are all shoved down properly. That's also a good idea to make sure your surface is relatively clean. You're now going to want to grab 12. Where's my math at today? I don't math so well sometimes. Got 12 V wheels. Most of these shouldn't create any issue. I just take a quick look at them, make sure there's no big little shards sticking up out of them. But you're going to put one in each wheel on top of the bearing. I get two. No, that's just one. One. All right, next step is just to push a bearing in from the top. Some of them are really snug. And that is 4. Now, I find it's important to do it this way because there's a lip in there, and if that washer gets up on top of the lip and you push a bearing into it, it's not going to be happy. Got it a little sideways, but it's alright. If it gets in a little bit sideways, it's just going to be hard to get it to pop past the edge. So you may want to wear a glove because this will kind of be mean to your fingers. Alright. 12. Those 3. These 3, 2 underneath the table, and maybe there was a spare. No, that one's for the... That's right. So 3 are going to go to the extruder. 1 is going to go to the bearing plates, and the other 2 are going under the table on these guys. Alright, so I guess you're going to take 6 out of the 30, so you need 24 for the wheels. So I'll just set those 6 and put them there. Alright, we got our wheels, but we're only using 4 of them. Put the other 4 back. For the carriage, you're going to need 2 of the shorter, what number is that? M5 by 25s, and then they're not the shortest, but they're definitely shorter. And then you're going to need 2 of the M5 by 60s. I ground down 2 of these, but in the future all of these will be curved. Only 2 of them are used for the carriage, and 2 of them are for the bottom. If you do like the milling and you want to do the vacuum, I wanted to make sure you guys had spare ones for that. So to start off, we're going to just stick the bolt through the wheel. Do that to all of them. This is like a really simple build. Just a quick look. It might not be. No, it's good. Alright, your next step is going to be grab 4 of those spacers and drop 1 on each one. Wheel plates next. I don't think it matters which side you use, but some of these are going to be kind of dirty. They're going to have some like debris and dust on there, so you might want to have a paper towel to remove debris. If you notice, both the bottom ones are elongated. That's to give a little bit of play in there. And then you need 2 of these M5s. There's 1, 2. Now, these don't have any washers. This is something you're gonna have to watch out for in the future. These washers go in a lot of different places. Some of them go between these M5 by 10s, and because they go through the plates, and then the plates are has a little gap there, so you're gonna stick a washer through there, and that happens on a lot of areas. It happens on some wheels too, but not on the carriage. That's the exception, I think. Okay, some of these are a little bit tough to get them going. You can thread them, and then if you just kind of, they're super tight, but it's important that they're tight. They have to be as snug as possible. If you work them a little bit, they might just pop through. Also maybe do something like that. So there's just a little bit of, I guess, molten kerf from cutting, from the laser cutting, and it kind of like creates a little buildup on there. So you're going to get a little bit of aluminum debris. You might want to try to knock any large chunks off. All right, we're at that part. Next, you're going to grab your block. This is your belt block, and you're going to need 20s. These are M3 by 20s, and they should just slide right on through. They actually go in on this side first. And since this was printed, this is the part that was printed on. Like I was saying about your knife, you may have to take off just a tiny little edge there. Shouldn't take much though. There you go. So, and these won't be silver. These will likely be the hex cap. I'm positive they'll be the hex cap because I just changed this up to make room for the mill. So that was one of the final changes. It goes on this side. Again, we're fighting the oh, no, that's a different one. We're fighting the kerf from the laser cut aluminum plates. They might be able to just pop through, but sometimes they'll give you trouble. Your next step is going to be some M3 washers. I got 3 of them out. Also in 16, yeah. So this is a M3 by 16 that goes in here. Yeah. And as you can see, these holes are like really well sized. So things should just kind of, see what these guys, bam. So they just pop right in place. You can go ahead and put those together. Notice that the clamp, the bottom section has the inset rim for grabbing the hot end. Yeah, I guess you could throw in the fan right now. It can kind of get in the way a little bit, but make sure your fan is properly tucked in. And the other thing is the sticker is the direction the air flows. So you want to do something like that. Now also notice that the wires come out on that side up at the top. These are also going to be M16s. Except for these come in. Let's see, we ran into that issue again. I might have to do a chamfer these a little bit. Usually it's just the bottom layer, so it's just the tiniest little bit that prevents the hole or the bolt from running through. Alright, let's get this guy threading. A lot of this stuff can be tightened by hand. In fact, I'm going to switch this guy out. There we go. Get this going little faster here. So the fan, the bolts come in from the back because the fan itself has these hexagonal recesses. It just pops on there. I'm going to get to, yeah, I could go ahead and throw. Alright, we'll undo this and go ahead and do full finished assembly. Sometimes I don't like to do it this way, but these can be tricky to remove. You just got to pull them off straight. That's the big issue. Whenever you're putting these guys on, you're going to want it to be angled kind of with these wires to the heater cartridge. You're going to be wanting to come out towards you if you're holding it like this, like thus. Yee. All right. All right, all right. Let's go ahead and put this guy back on there so those bolts face inward. Try not to tangle your wires too much. And this silver set, I just printed it like 2-3 hours ago. I finished it up. I went ahead and replaced that purple one with the silver one. And this is kind of where these guys come in. There's places where it's going to be really hard to grab a hold of those nuts, so having needle nose instead of the other pliers can be helpful. Proximity sensor. Proximity sensor, it's going to go this way. Actually, instead of prying open these clamps, I don't think you should be able to put some pretty decent pressure on these clamps without anything going on, but it's probably just as easy. Okay, and that's how you hold it, and you put it down, up through the bottom. So you're coming up from the bottom with the wires into the clamp. All right. And then you just shove it up like that. It's going to hang down a little ways, maybe something like that in reality. So it doesn't even approach the threads yet, but it should be in that general range. You're also going to need one of those. Aha. One of these guys. I wouldn't crank this down, just kind of get it started a little bit. Shove it on there. 5. Five goes on that. Hopefully I'm still recording. Yep, still recording. Never know with this iPhone, I'm not much of a video recordable. Okay, let's not go that route. It seems like the long way to go. Hopefully, I can't say for sure, but hopefully I'll be able to find some hex screws that require fewer bit changes, because every once in a while I have to change back to that bigger, thicker bit, and it's kind of annoying. One other thing to do. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we still have to, I don't know if you guys can see, probably isn't the best view, is it? Let me move you guys. Because I've seen some assembly videos, and when I can't see anything, I'm like, what's the point of watching this thing? I don't want to be producing something that no one watches. Alright, hopefully this gives us a better vantage point. I'll just try to work around the camera. And hopefully the volume isn't too intense, because I'm closer to it now. Okay, so we got to put those two Okay. These guys go something like this. Okay, so there's one of these. So that's those screws. And it might be easier to do something like this. And hopefully, if you just push your finger against the nut, you know, you can create enough resistance on it that you can really tighten these down. Okay, so this is where we're at. This guy, you can turn this way. Oh, sorry. You can turn this block this way and it will tighten the block. But if you got the clamps clamped down, you might want to loosen one of these sides. Oh, totally forgot something. Anybody guess what we forgot? We forgot Endstop. Let's go ahead and throw that on real quick. That is going to require not a whole lot of backtracking, but 1 or 2. Yeah, 2. The good news is these are super easy to dismantle. Let's see. Okay, here's the Endstop. Endstop goes with the flat side. Alright, that's going to go like this. Bam. Alright. I don't know, I heard a little pop somewhere. I'm not sure what that was. Let's go ahead and reassemble. Okay, so let's take another quick look at what's going on. These guys are still loose down here. Might need tightened up every. We're looking at V-wheel, spacer, plate, clamp, then the Endstop, then back to the clamp, then it just keeps piling up. When I first started, this was a lot simpler. The more stuff I added, it just got more and more complicated. I didn't even have Endstops on it in the first couple, I think the first 20, all my prototypes never had Endstops on them. So like the last 2 or 3, I think, that I sold, those final ones, I think I went ahead and threw them in there. There it is. All right. Now, I put the shaved one over here. This one's not shaved. I actually ground that with the grinder. But they'll be all smooth. I get distracted easy. Hopefully you guys are just fast forwarding. Alright, so we got a whole heap of wires. We got our fan and our Endstop. Endstop's facing this way. Try to get a little more spotlight. The top there. You could also thread in the this guy if you want. To take these off, just in case no one's sure, you squeeze that blue and you push it in as much as you can and then pull out. If you try to pull straight out, the teeth can grab it. So squeeze first, push the tube, then pull out. When you reset it in there, just shove straight in. That's all there is to it. Alright, let's keep going. We got a lot of assembling to do. And this is not the most complex part, believe it or not. It's a little more in depth than some, but I'd say the most complex is probably getting that table plate lined up. The table plate can be tricky, but not too bad if you just take it one step at a time. Alright, there we go. Come on. So, there's the carriage. Oh, we forgot one thing. Hopefully that'll all just stay bundled. We forgot this guy. This is a bit of a trick. It's not too bad, but I would recommend, instead of trying to do it all perfect and mad skill it, just grab some pliers and hold on to it while you tighten that, and it's usually a lot easier. I try to fumble with that with my fingers, and pliers are just so quick to hold on to it that way. And then you can use your finger and kind of change its position. If you want to at this point, you can also, and I would actually recommend go ahead and putting on the belt. Now, this is the long belt. The long belt is for the carriage, so you just basically squeeze the teeth together like so. Alright. And then you're just going to slide it down in there like that. Bam. It's just pretty snug, actually. It's not too hard to slip down in there, but pull a little bit out, and I don't know, something like that. Just so you've got a few little rabbit ears to grab a hold of. And eventually you're going to pull this out even further to tighten it. So for the meantime, let me go ahead and just kind of finger tight. It doesn't have to be crunched crazy down or anything, but because you have the belts, they're not going to slip from each other because they have teeth. So these are quite strong. All right, carriage is done. That is the carriage and the wire madness. This will all be cleaned up later, and the belt as well. Okay, let's move on to the gantry. The gantry is the whole entire upper section motor, including the carriage. This whole upper section is considered the gantry. So for the gantry, what we're going to need, these guys. Remember, the gantry is the shorter one. It's the shorter of the two, which is this guy. Yeah, the table is longer, the gantry is shorter. Alright. I'm going to actually go ahead and stop it, and that way I have a point. Alright, well, some crazy news. I'm editing the video, and I realized that a piece of it didn't save. That was the entire gantry. So I'm going back through, and I'm dismantling the entire thing so I can do a reassembly for you guys. Gantry's not too bad. It should be a little faster since I have some of the parts already together than the first time through. I'm going to go ahead and stop it. I just want to give you guys a heads up what is going on. I got to redo the whole gantry. So I'm taking this thing down. I'll be right back. Alright, well, I didn't fully dismantle everything, but we're going to go ahead and start with the X motor. So the X motor, it's important that when the plate is pointing to the left, the wires hang down. That is important. And then you're going to get 4 of these M8s. You know, these are just motor bolts. I think I must have snugged them up decently tight. Pull one out. You can see that, yeah. So basically these are just M8s, so you're going to plug all those into the motor, to the plates. When you're doing motors, just a quick reminder, you don't want to like over crank them down or anything. Just they're going to be solid. And then you're going to attach your GT2 pulley, something like that. Make sure to get both of these. There could be a keyed edge or on the motor shaft. So once you assemble that, set it aside. Now it's time for the big main portion. This plate is your front plate, and this is the rear plate, and these sandwich the wheels. When you're looking at it, think of this as pointing to the left, and this is the right side. So you're going to put these guys through. These back two are slotted, so that there is play. So there's going to be some ability for the wheels to kind of adjust here. Put that on the table, and then drop a spacer. Yeah, it's recording. Just making sure. I keep losing videos. Grab 4 of the V wheels, drop them on top of the spacers. Grab spacers, drop them on top of the V wheels. Okay, now we know that the back side that's flat here is the side that it can move and adjust. So make sure you check which side is which. These are the slotted sides here and here. These are the perfectly round ones. So sandwich all those together. There's no washers needed in this build part. Yeah, we can go ahead and do it that way. You can also install these guys kind of first. That'll work too. But there's room in here if you have a small enough screwdriver to access those. Bit driver, I mean. So it's a little tilted. There we go. And for the most part at the moment, just hand tight. These are M5 by 10s. Put a washer on there, and so again, keep this oriented where you can see it to the pointing left. Shove those through there, all 3 of them. So another M5 by 10 in there, and the last one with the washer 5 by 10. This might be easier to have done it the other way, but it's not too bad. Then you're going to tighten your T-nut on there. Notice the T-nut, if I can get it, make sure I get a good clean shot of this for you guys. The way it goes, basically, which side is how it's going to ride in the rail. I mean, this would be wrong. This would be right. Okay, moving on. So just thread those on a little bit. I guess this is the first time we've installed T-nuts. So I have a little trick that I like to do with T-nuts, and that is to put them on there first, and then slide it into the rail. Make sure I get this. Yeah, that should be right. Okay, so basically I just line it up, and then line the next one up. Make sure there's enough gap for the T-nut to go in, and the last one. Basically just lining these up, pushing them out, sliding them in. Now when you tighten these down, this is going to be hanging out quite a bit. You might barely see that thread, but like I said, there should be room to get the screwdriver onto that, and just tighten them up. Hopefully you noticed that the round part here points this way. This is the shorter, the shorter 2020. Ignore the whole printer that's built back here. Again, I already did this thing and I thought this was recorded and it didn't record. So let's doing it again. Make sure those are cranked down kind of good. Also, this piece, you can loosen these down the road and tilt this entire 2020 to help level it to the bed. I mean, there's auto leveling, but that's an extra ability to level. This is the next thing you'll build. I should probably go ahead and undo half of it. One of the more important parts of this is you'll notice that the two that are closer together are going to be attached to the T-nuts to the frame. The one that's spaced further out has the I think that's a 35 M5 by 35. These are M5 by 10s. So you're also going to need washers on these two that attach to the frame. Those need washers. And then you're going to... I don't need to... You guys can see it well enough, I think. So make sure that there is... Focus. Come on. Make sure there's a washer in there. This one doesn't need a washer, but these two do. So then when you're tightening the first one, you're going to want to grab a hold and do the very bottom first. So tighten that one, then tighten this one, and then you're going to take a bearing, one of the 6, throw that on there. So basically these M5 nuts are just used to space. So do them 2 at a time. Then tighten, and then tighten the next one. So you're going to tighten this one first, and then tighten this one. So the bearing is still free spinning. Also set up this one. You're going to need your washer in there. Don't forget those washers. Got to have the washer in there, otherwise it will bottom out in the V-slot. Okay, the next thing we're doing is the clamps. You can take some, these are M3 by 8s. Just these little guys, so they just thread into the plastic like such. And then you're going to get the other M5 by 35s. I believe these are M5 35s. You're going to put one washer, and then you're going to install them into the Z clamp. This side is down, so the singular hole side is, well, the recess side points down. And so you're going to install the plastic ones in both, clamp them together. One more washer, don't forget that washer there. And then you're going to put it through like this. Alright, so this is facing down. The motor wires are facing down left, and this is the top. It just goes into those holes. Then when you turn it around, add your T-nuts. I really like to just slide the T-nuts in place once these are on. So once those are on, then you can just slide them in. Hopefully you guys caught that first one. Just slide it in there. Line up the second one. Slide it in. It's pretty quick that way. This is going to be just kind of, we're going to adjust this down the road, like its position. This hole is going to be slightly to the right of that. That motor shaft should come really close to this edge, but we'll align it to this down the road. The next thing you're going to do is the carriage. So a carriage belt, it can be pretty tricky the very first time, but just pay close attention here, because we can get this belt on here super easy and get the carriage installed. Can you see the carriage? Yeah. And you can see the full extent of the belt. Yeah. Okay. Just checking you can see. So basically, I say that word a lot, I know. Wrap the belt over the pulley. Pull away like that. You should have plenty of room to get the belt into the V-slot. And then you're just going to take your finger and pull one side of the belt. Once you get it started, grab that belt and just pull it. Pull this side towards you. Now you're going to be wrapping around the motor. See how the motor's turning? The more you pull this, the more it's going to just slide right on. And it's on there. Now we've got the belt bearing idler. Yeah, still in view. Slide that in. Slide this one in. Hopefully you guys saw that. Just slide both those T-nuts in. Belt around the back. It might be easier. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and I'll recommend to do it this way. On this small one, make sure you got your washer in there, of course. I know I keep saying that. Put the T-nut in first. Okay, so you've got both of these back T-nuts in. You've got the front one sitting in there, not attached. And then put this guy through. And then line up this T-nut to this. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and tighten this whole entire, make sure this plate goes down all the way as you're tightening. Otherwise it will kind of catch and lock. You also want to make sure this is relatively straight. And one last thing, the T-nuts will kind of extend beyond. So they'll be hanging out just a tiny bit. The more they're hanging out, the more travel you're going to have with the carriage, because this metal plate runs into this metal plate. That's pretty much what determines the length. Alright, so tighten those all down and make sure there's room for the belt to be there. Last but not least, you're going to take an M6 or M3x16 with an M3 nut, send it through, doesn't matter which way. When you put it onto this guy, you want the bolt to be heading away. M5, just like that. Just like this and like that. The last part is this does kind of angle in a little bit, because you want it to hit the switch before you hit the metal. And it kind of does them both almost at the exact same time, but definitely make sure the switch activates. Last but not least, you just kind of loosen this, pull it towards you, loosen the bolt, lift, start tightening the bolt while you're pulling towards you. And what that does is it kind of grabs that M3 nut in there. And then I got a smaller needle nose. Then you just grab that, tighten it. You don't want to over tighten this bolt into that belt. Definitely don't. You may not have to tighten this right now, because if this thing needs to be slid out for adjustments, you're gonna end up, okay, still recording. If this has to be slid out for adjustments, you're gonna end up needing some of this belt. So you don't have to make that like super snug and perfect this very second. Also make sure that the belt is pretty centered on there. This part can also be, these can be tightened up. Not, well, you can tighten those, but you're going to need to make adjustments on those down the road. But you should be able to tighten the inside wheels. Okay, this is a lot easier than I'm making it look. Just trying to make sure you guys have a good view. Okay, so since these wheels go through holes that are perfectly circular, they don't move. There's no adjustment available for these. These are the ones that move back and forth, like, I don't know, like 1.5 millimeters, something like that. So when you, down the road, you'll put this onto the vertical column. So pretend I'm not doing this, but this is a good demonstration. Basically, you'll put it onto the vertical column. And then you'll do the technique that we used on the Carriage, where you compress the wheels together and you push the bolt from the back, and you use the wrench to compress those, and then you shouldn't have any play in it. There shouldn't be any click, 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 click. It should be nice and snug. Okay, so that was the Carriage. Wasn't that crazy difficult, but we're not to everything yet. But you should have, and you also have to do adjustments. Did I show those? That's going to be the same. I don't know if I showed those in later videos because I'm kind of undoing. You'll tighten these up here, and then when you're ready to finish this out, because since the bottom ones are the adjustable ones, there's play in there. So to remove that play, grab the nut in the back, grab the top. Hopefully this is not in view, is it? Okay. So these two are not adjustable, so those should just be tightened down. But from here, you'll grab the nut in the back, lift with the screwdriver while you tighten. Once you get it relatively tight, you can grab with some pliers, maybe something like that. So I'm using my finger up here just to make sure that side's tight. The whole idea is you just put some pressure on this bolt here that goes through, and you're going to try to compress it into this wheel, and you get whatever means necessary. Without a necessary means for a necessary means. And then you can, of course, you'll definitely want to check this and make sure it doesn't like wobble. But these aren't like when you tilt it back and forth. There's no play in it. Those are actually easier to adjust than you might think, to get them tight. You just got to make sure you're putting some pressure on it. All right. So that was the gantry, the whole top section. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. All right, guys. Maybe I did. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but the bolts that go through here, these little M8s, if you're milling, not focus. If you're milling, then you're gonna take bolts and come in from the bottom. The ones that come in down from the top like this is designed for crash prevention. So if you're running downward and the sensor is too high, the nozzle doesn't get pressed into the bed. It'll just lift right off. It'll just lift right off of that thing. All right. All right, on to whatever I did next. All right, bye guys. Hi guys, we are back. Now it's time for the table. So, start with our 2020. The longer one is the table. We're also going to need the bed, the two table bed supports, and the limit switch. Also gonna, if you have the heated bed set up, you're also gonna need this guy, and you're also going to need the rails, the table rail supports. This isn't too difficult. This is one of the faster builds. So we're going to start with these guys and the table. Grab 4 of the M5x10s. Oh, just 2 washers. That's going to need the table springs. Oh, they're tricky to get a hold of. Alright, so we got our table springs. And should have 4 M3x16s left. Just at a different angle here. Hopefully that kind of catches most of it. Alright. First thing you're going to do is put one M5 through the washer on 2 of those. So you've used up both washers. Then you're going to put an M5x10 through the center of both of these guys, like so. Next thing you're going to do, the long part supports the rail. So now this is without a washer. No washer needed there. Washer. Now it's also important that this railing, the vertical portion, goes up on that side. And these just don't want to go through. They go through without any problem threading, but it's just a little bit of debris in the corners. Okay, again, the washer goes in the small corner, like so. The table rail goes between the 2 bolts, the vertical section does. There's no washer in there. There's probably going to be a few extra washers included, so if you just happen to use one in there, I don't think it'll hurt things, but hopefully there'll be a couple extra washers. All of 60 washers isn't practical to count out individually, so I'll count them by weight, and I'll put several extra in some of the small stuff. Some of the washers can have like a damaged little edge, so to avoid not having enough of whatever, because something's bad, I'll try to include a few extra pieces here and there. Okay, so hopefully you saw that. That's basically taking those T-nuts, putting them on threading the T-nuts on. On the M5x10s, and then just keep in mind it goes this way. So these guys point out in both directions. Slip on the T-nuts into the V-slots. Come in. And there you go. Basically got this guy. Now, you just have to pick a side, and you're going to get it, I don't know what that is, maybe 15 millimeters, 10, less than 20. It's definitely something like 15. And you're basically going to secure one side. You want to try to get this pretty level, but we'll get that later. And just lock one of these down. And lock the other one down. Even locking these down pretty tight, you still should be able to give a little tilt there. So this guy is a little different. We're just going to loosely lock one side a little bit, just so it hangs there, but it still should be somewhat easy to slide. I guess go ahead and get this a little bit, man, not snug in any wings. All right. This may only go on one single way, but if you have the heated bed is going to extend longer than just the aluminum bed. So what you're basically going to do is position it like that. These need to be on the back side with the longer section, and the thermistor wires come in from the bottom, right? Okay. And then this guy is not going to cover the back. Well, part of it is, you know, I don't want anything to, can't short these out. So this was actually designed this way specifically. Alright, this could be a little bit tricky, but if you just do these two at a time, it's not too bad. So this really needs to be able to slide in here, so make sure that your M3x16 can slide. Put it through the back of the heated bed, spring on. And then you're basically going to just feel for that hole. Ooh, almost forgot. If your bed is positioned like this, this one is going to go on this side. And it should just kind of just go right on there like that. Shouldn't be too much to it. It might be pretty close to where it needs to be. Okay, so let's go ahead and complete what we were doing. I'm going to put the spring on, put the M16 through there, and then find that hole with the M16, or the M3x16. What did I do with it? Smaller screwdriver. There it is. Alright, so we're basically going to pinch that down pretty far. You're also going to need some M3 nuts, 4 M3 nuts. Alright. Something like that. So that basically it's pretty good if this is at the same level as the top of this rail. In theory. Okay, so we only did one on the first run. On the second one, you should be exactly lined up. I mean, the tolerances on this are less than 1/10 of a millimeter. But you want to, if you do thread these in, it's important that the bolt can travel in the plate. Send that side through, and if you squeeze the two together, the back of the bolt, you squeeze the back of the bolt and the back of this rail, then you can thread these on super easy. Just like that. Alright. This is the tricky side. You can still lift this a little bit, so that's kind of what we're banking on here to get this to be lined up. The wires are out of the way. You can look and say it needs to come back just a little bit. Just a tiny bit. So what I do is I just move it just a little bit and then tighten them down. And if you think you got it right on, then go ahead and tighten it down completely. Give it a nice, good, snug twist. Like I was saying before, these are going to be a lot easier if you do them at the same time on the last two. because once you start tightening one side down, it's going to be hard to get the spring in between the other one. So I've already got the spring on the bottom one. I'm going to go ahead and add the spring on the top one. It's easier than I'm making it look. I'm trying to keep it in the video view. So keep holding this one up here, or whichever one you get through first. And then once you get the second one, just make sure it stays put. Get the top one on. And grab the second one. The second one will be ready to go. It's supposed to be ready to go. All right. Now, looking at this, it's like, yeah, that's not going to work. So what do we do? Well, we have bulldog clips. I guess these are called bulldog clips or folder binder. I don't even know. Something like that. Well, these guys can just be clamped on, and you can just flip the sides over. These are also really good. The thicker ones are good for doing, like, creating a wooden subsurface for milling so that you're not milling into your metal plate. I'll include those. Get that to focus. So these are a little dusty, but basically these are bulldog clips. The smaller ones are probably better than the huge ones. Those are definitely good sized, but they'll work at the moment. I'll make sure and have small ones, or perhaps the large ones. I don't know. Either way, I think these are Dollar General. They're like $1 for like 10 of them, so they're crazy cheap. All right, so that's the bed. You can do one other thing to the bed. All right, so you can see those. Basically, we're talking, these are the flat T-nuts and some M5x10s. So these nuts are flat, and there's only 2 of them. So take the short belt, and you're going to go on the side that has, the little end stop. Start by threading it through the nut, and you'll also notice, I probably should have mentioned this on the ones before, but the curved side is the smaller side. You're not, it's going away. It's going into the V slot. So you don't need a whole lot sticking out. It's probably not bad to have a little bit. I may actually have belts that are long enough to wrap around and grab this side. I haven't fully decided on that yet, because when you tighten these, it can cause them to twist. But typically you can adjust that twist by just grabbing this. And this is the side that you would feed into the table when you're assembling it. So we're not going to lock that one down, but we can throw it in place real quick, like that. And that is done. So now we have the table done, and the gantry / carriage. That's all kinds of madness at the moment, but we'll get to the tightening everything up properly. I guess what's next? Just a second. Hi guys. You won't believe this, I already assembled this thinking that the video was running, and went on to assemble this guy thinking that the video was running. I guess I exceeded the duration of the camera and it shut off, and I went on and on. So we're going to do some backtracking here real quick. I don't want you guys to really miss any of the building, but I'm not going to rebuild everything. So here's what's going on. I'll go ahead and pull these guys off because I brought in pliers. I'm not sure if I'd already brought those in, but pliers will be handy. I think I can get away with just doing one of these. Alright, so you're going to use 4 of the M5 by, let's see, whatever this is. M5 by, I think that's a 20 or 25. So you're going to do this 4 times. You're going to put a set of wheels on it. Then you're going to add a spacer. Then you're going to add 2 washers. There's 1 on there, and there's 2. So you gotta have 2 washers on there. Then you're going to put these. This is another important step. You're gonna have 3 holes in the middle of this table plate, and you're going to put them with the wheels. If you orient the plate like this, the wheels are going to go in like that. So basically make sure you're not putting the wheels on this side. Orient it with the single hole to the left and put these 4 wheel assemblies. They're all identical. Again, that was your wheel, your V wheel, your spacer, 2. Make sure you get 2 washers on there, and tighten up with a nut. This one and this one can be tightened all the way down. So this one and this one get tightened fully. This one is just snug, and this one's just snug, kind of like it is right here, just a little snugness to it. Then this guy, we're taking this apart. You're going to put a washer on an M5 by 10, send it through the hole, right? Something like that. And you're sending that one through the single hole, not the double, just the single. The doubles have these, get that down. The doubles have these belt bearings. Also, make sure when you snug these down that they're free to spin. Before I had one, I should probably show you that as well. If you notice when you tighten one of these down that it's a little bit tight, the wheel just won't spin freely. In fact, it was this one. What you do is you take the wheel and you tap it on the bottom, hopefully, and when you do that, you'll see that the spacer dropped, and then you can take your bolt and push out the bearing. Oh, maybe. All right, let's try this again. Yeah, come on. I had it earlier. Maybe we'll do it from this side. And switching sides does matter because the washers have a curved face. So, this side really doesn't want to come out. We'll go back to this side because I got it budged. There it goes. Okay, so basically you're taking the bolt and you're catching the edge of the washer, and you're pushing the washer against the inside track of the bearing. And then just switch this washer in here with a different one. And that's only if it's not smooth. I mean, it should be pretty smooth. And then go ahead and make sure you got your washer in there. And then reassemble like such. Make sure, again, 2 spacers, I should also note, these are elongated holes. These are not. So again, these are elongated. That's to compress the wheels together to tighten so that it's nice and snug against. They also sell eccentric spacers on open builds. Unfortunately, this setup isn't designed to handle eccentric spacers. They're kind of expensive. And how I did it, it works really well. So I don't really have any issues with not having a snug connection. Before I make those snug, I'll go ahead and show you what's going on here. This guy, this is the unique one, this 90-degree bracket. It's unique because it's flat. Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this one out. This one's kind of an odd setup. Okay. So we already did this one with the T-nut with just the standard M5x10, and then this one, these two you'll set up the same way, except for this one has a T-nut, this one has this guy. So what we did was we basically took another M5x25 bolt, and you put your bearing on, then you're going to put your spacer, 1/4 inch spacer, then put your nut, and you should make sure that these nuts are locked down nice and snug here, right? And then throw on one single washer and put it through the hole. And so then you would tighten your T-nut on here, and then this guy, before you get to this guy, you're going to take this guy. So we got a washer in there, I don't know if you can see very well, but there is a washer inside there. So make sure you include that. And then T-nut, right? And then this guy goes on here. Just don't forget that washer down in there. I know I said it like 10 times. If you assemble the whole printer and you go to tighten that up, you're going to be thinking, God, why didn't I get that washer on there? I want to demonstrate that just in case I don't plan on doing like captions in foreign languages, so let me just double do this just to make sure everybody knows this washer is super important. Alright, washer is very important. Come on, come on. Alright, well there's two ways to screw a bolt. Alright, so basically we're back to where we were. Okay, but this hasn't been tuned, so what you're going to do is, I already pulled this guy off. This guy, just set him off to the side. Slide it in. And I've already got this one nice and snug, but this one I removed. No, this one I removed. So these two are the ones that need tightened. So that they're nice and so that there's no play in the system. So if you can hear that play and see it, so what you're going to do is basically get your finger right here and lift, and then compress here, and then grab a hold here and lift. Then if you feel like you've got it pretty well down, go in the back, just give it a snug tight. And now you shouldn't have any play in there. And you'll also do this side over here. So you'll do the same thing, compress, tighten it, and then tighten again with the, I'm not sure if you can even see all that. Yeah, you're going to do this side too. And then make sure that there is no play in this thing at all. You don't want any play at all, but you want a nice smooth movement. All right. These, yeah, just make sure these are all nice and snug. This one felt a little bit loose. Double check it. Ooh. Hear that? That's not good. This side needs retightened. So it's probably that final little tightening that rotated it down a little bit. And I mean, that could be a problem, but just keep at it. Try it 2 or 3 times and you'll get it. There it goes. Yeah, we're good now. Perfect. Just do it 2 or 3 times and you're going to get them good and snug. All right. Don't forget this guy. Don't want to forget him on the belt. Just to hold it in place like that. All right. We're done. We're going to jump onto this one next, but I'm going to stop the video. Okay, guys, we're back. I have to stop it every, I think I only get 25 to 30 minutes of filming before it shuts off, so we're going to undo this guy now. I'm not going to get too undone with it, but you guys want, I want to make sure you guys see the whole assembly. I don't want you guys to miss any key steps. Yeah, I'll go and pull these guys off. I mean, if I was in your shoes, I'd want to see every single step as well. So this part is whatever. You can pay attention or just to look at what I'm doing. All right. 4 on there, 2, good. Okay, I don't know if you just saw that, but I can just pop that guy off there. And this is the drive. Now you're gonna have to see this part too. Oh no, I can do it the other way. Yeah, this is an important step. If you miss a washer, it could basically throw off the whole extruder. And I definitely believe that you can do different extruder setups. You don't have to stick to this metal plate plan, but it's a pretty solid setup. And I'll probably refine it down the road as well. Okay, so what we have here is we took a motor, and these aren't the motors that you'll be getting. You'll be getting a different type. These are just some old ones I had. The ones you're going to be getting are YZE 42B. There it is. Touch the screen and get a focus on. Maybe. You're going to be getting YZE 42 BYGW or BYGHW609. Then it has like a 1X2 or something. 1-X2. So you want the wires to come out this way though. They're going to come out from that side. And then, so you'll bolt these down again like you did before. And then you'll send these bolts through here with 2 M3s. These are all the same. They're M3 by 25s. And so you'll just send them through the top, through the block, and down through the bottom. 2 and 3 nuts. Okay, so we'll set that aside for just a few more seconds. This guy is important. I'm going to undo it. It's really important that you guys see the washer set up in here. Okay, here's how the washers are. You've got the short, there we go. You've got the short bolt, short silver partial thread, that's what the PT is, partial thread, going through that top tensioner plate. You put one washer on, and there's a smooth surface. I'd recommend putting the smooth surface on that so it faces the bearing. Put the bearing on. Then you want to put two washers on the bottom, with the bottom one facing the bearing. So one washer, bearing, two washers, right? Okay. Send that through. Hopefully that'll be easy to send through, but not too easy. And then when you tighten this guy right here, it should sink into this piece, should drop in. Get it pretty tight. There's a recessed edge there so that you can, I'm not sure if you guys are watching, sorry. Just send a screw into it. Not too tight, just snug. All this stuff should just be snug. Maybe this should be a little bit on the tight side. Alright, so if you already got the bottom metal plate on, you're going to set this in there. This guy goes through here first. And these two guys, I like putting the smooth surface. You're going to put both of these on the top. So two on the bottom, two on the top, because you can see how it aligns. Okay. Come on. This is a little tricky to show and assemble at the same time. The reason is because of the top here, this nut has to clear. It has to clear that, and so it's got to be pushed down far enough. So I'm just going to assemble this thing without trying to show any, because it's kind of a carefully positioned kind of assembly. Alright. Shove that through. This on here. This is tight, too tight. Here we go. Feels about right. I mean, you want it to be loose enough. Okay. You can flip the... Let me take a look. Okay. So, this is a 1.5 metric, so 1.5 bearing first. This is the MK8 gear, just snug it on there. This is a spacer. Then you're going to run it up through here and shove this, like, pull it up like that. Oh, it fell at the back. It's alright. Okay, so that should kind of snap into place. Open that up. Should snap in. And then drop that guy down there. It should kind of pop in too. Two washers, smooth side down. And then you're going to have this guy with an M5 nut kind of pressed into it. If you have to, you can, you know, put the nut on there and then just like kind of All right, so you get your nut in there. It should fit really well, actually. That's a really nice fit. And then you'll thread the plastic side on. Don't forget your 2 washers. And make sure that these bolts are on there already. I ran into an issue with this guy. These are different motors. This one's short, this one's tall. Everybody's gonna get these. This is what I had left over. So one other thing you have to do is put an M3 nut, and you'll tighten this down, and then this guy will go here, but there's not enough room to catch. It just won't catch the bolt and stay high enough. So I switched out for a different one that sits like this. You won't have that, so this is a no-no. Then last but not least is this guy. See, this creates a problem here, which is why to actually make this work, because of this motor, I have to I'm gonna put this on later, but this is what you actually want to do. Sorry guys, I'm still here. Okay. I used these two, so I'll just delete that. Okay, so here's what I find is easiest. Grab some pliers. You can shove it in like that. And it should be a nice opening. Like that. And you basically tighten that up. Of course, this is going to be up higher, so this doesn't apply. That darn motor shaft. Make sure you got your 2 washers in there. I don't know if I remembered. Yeah, I told you. 2 washers in between the bearing. Grab this below here. You see where I'm grabbing that? And then it's gonna start snugging up pretty darn good. Alright, make sure this is also free spinning. It's the extruder. This guy will come down and then tighten. But like I said, I don't have the shaft should be longer. It should be up here. So that sucks, because this isn't gonna lock in. That's okay. We'll keep moving. I'm gonna go ahead and take a pause, and we're gonna go through the rest of it. Hey guys, completely forgot. Also, these guys. So I'm gonna just put a washer on there, shove it through. Oh, I'm sorry. Put a washer. Then you don't have to have the washer and the spring. And there are recesses. So if you do it just right, you can pretty much do the first one by hand, almost. There are recesses for the nuts. If my camera will focus. There. Same thing on the other side. Get your washer. shove it through. This guy. And as long as that nut's in that recess, tension, the amount of tension, I would say somewhere in the middle. Where these guys come to about the middle of that. Okay, so we got tension, but not too much. I don't want to overdo it. You can also test your extruder at this point. If you want to run a little piece of filament through it. I'll give you a quick example. The thing about this extruder is the beginning needs to be straight. Really got to straighten out that beginning. So basically, if you want to test it, send it through, just push it into it. And then typically you could just get the gear wheel to start grabbing it. And then for the most part it should go. There it is going. That's really all there is to it. So you want to make sure the wrong way. Trying to feed it back out. So that's basically it. Extruder's good. Hi guys. Well, it keeps happening. I keep making progress and then realize that it didn't record. So I'm going to move to another recording system shortly. So I'll just re-update you on what's been done. Basically, I just wire loomed these. I didn't put the Endstop or the proximity sensor. I need to turn the camera a little. Okay, so the Endstop right here and the proximity sensor I left out of the loom, and the reason I did that is because when you switch out the mill, you want to take all these features and put them over off to the side, but then you're going to need the Endstop to home the mill or the laser cutter. The proximity sensor, there's a few different techniques to how that's going to work, but we'll go through those down the road. For now, I would just recommend getting rid of, or not getting rid of, but wiring those separately. Okay, when you're looming, you're going to go through a majority of this. Endstop proximity sensor. You're going to go through about 2/3 of your looming material. When you run out, you're going to add in the longest X motor wire. That's this guy. And you're going to use about 200 millimeters. You can measure it up against the table, right? There we go. You can measure it up against the table, about 200 millimeters. And then that amount is going to enter into the loom after the 200 millimeters. I'm not really great at photographing. Okay, so 200 millimeters enter into the loom for the last maybe 200, 170 millimeters, finish out the loom with those motor wires in the final portion of the loom, the last third of it. So it's going to do something like that. And then those are the separate proximity and stop. The rest of it comes down to here. Then you're going to cut off a pretty decent portion of this guy. This is the Teflon tube. If you plan on extending the build area, you may not want to cut this off. But if you want to keep it clean and you want to just leave it how it is, like how I designed it, go ahead and cut off about, a little over 200 millimeters, something like that. Okay, and then you're going to pop the coupling back on here. So should have a little bit sticking out. The next thing I did, I'll move on. This is taking me forever because I have to keep reshooting. The next thing I did was took these guys, tightened them down, tightened the top ones on the carriage. So here's the carriage. You're going to grab a hold of here, tighten these down nice and snug. I mean, really nice and snug. These don't move. The bottom ones are what move. The bottom wheels are what are used to compress onto this. So basically, what you do to deal with those, you got to be careful about putting too much strain on your Teflon tube. You don't want to bend this too far. But what you basically do is grab a hold of the back nut on that wheel, right? So this nut, and then actually don't even do it that way. Do it this way. You're going to, let's say this is loose. This is loose here. So you're going to push your finger and pinch these together from the top of the frame, the aluminum plate, and this nut. You're going to pinch them together like that, and then you're going to take the screwdriver and pull it into the frame, and then tighten as you hold it together, and then finish it off. You're going to do that on both sides, and you can test if you got a good fit, because a good fit, you're going to try to twist this back and forth, and a good fit, there's going to be no play. All right. The next thing you do is you're going to ensure that this guy is in the right place. You're going to also ensure this guy's in the right place. You can get access to all three of these nuts. That's why these little holes are here, or these little curves are here. So you're gonna scoot this whole assembly out so that, see that T-nut right there? It's just hanging out just a little bit. And then you're going to loosen this, loosen that, and this whole piece slides over. And you're going to want to center this to the center of this. Those should be centered to each other, or very close anyways. Then tighten this up. The belt will still be loose, so then when you tighten the belt, you're also going to make sure that this side's tight. You want to tighten these down, tighten this down, so everything's snug over here. To do the belt, you are then going to loosen this bolt, loosen this guy right here, not over twist those wires, and see that nut in there. So basically loosen this, pull it this way. You want to pull it that direction, so when you tighten it, that nut stays put. That nut right there. And then once you pull this out and you get this pretty tight, and then it's in place, you can stick your needle nose pliers in there and then finish tightening it off. And if everything's nice and tight, you should have a nice fluid movement. You should be able to feel the motor back and forth. And that's pretty much it. This is set pretty far out. These two are set pretty far out. And then this is pulled snug. These are centered to each other. This is tight so that there's no play here. These are still potentially not set correct, these two wheels on the outsides, but we'll get to that. All right. We're going to jump into the motor plate, because these wires here are going to lead in behind all of this. So, how well you guys can see that. all these wires. What I do is get all these wires grouped together that come out of the top. Yeah. I'd also do. Don't necessarily have to do the proximity sensor in that grouping. But what you're going to want to do is give some room to how this sits. Just try to keep them all clean. Probably something about like that. This is still too long. I'll probably chop off more of this, but shove all those in like that. And for the proximity sensor, yeah, I think I was going that route with it. Keep the proximity sensor out for right now. It's a lot to try to compress in there. Actually, yeah. We'll keep it out for the moment. You're gonna need some. Well, you're gonna need 4 of these M5 by 10s. You're also gonna need 4 washers to go with them. 2, 3, 4. So, put a washer. Actually, I think you only need 3, and then you're going to need one of these guys. One with the nubs on it. The rest of them have nubs. So put a washer in there, like that. And then the next one in there. Come on. Yeah. Okay, if it doesn't go by itself, you may have to thread it a little. This guy does not get a washer. You're going to go into the flat side. Now there's a difference. This is important. Flat side, nub side. Flat side has this guy with no washer. Goes in here. And it should kind of meet right up. And then the final one gets a washer. There it goes. Gonna need a couple of those. Make that 5. So we're gonna do the 5th one right there with the washer. This one does have a washer in there. Throw that one on. Throw this one on. It's important to note which direction these guys go. You want to come up, so that they fit into the V-slot properly. Same with this one. Basically just do this for all 4 of the plate. Just make sure you get them going the right way. And the 4th one. Alright. This guy doesn't really matter at the moment. Okay. So take all those wires, including the end stop, but not the proximity sensor, and shove them in there. Then you're going to take the motor wire here that's going to go into the extruder, and this one is going to go into the bottom. So everything that's powering down below goes into the bottom rail, and everything that's coming from the loom goes into the top rail, just to keep it organized mentally, I guess. Then here's the tricky part. You're going to slide those T-nuts You slide the T-nuts. Maybe if I say it 3 times. You're going to slide the T-nuts. There it goes. Consecutively into the top of that 2040. So just keep sliding them until you get to the motor. Maybe. There it goes. When you get to the motor, make sure that this guy is separate, but make sure all your wires are clear. See, you want to make sure that when you shove this across here, your wires don't get like severed. Alright? So all your wires go in, and this is your motor wire that goes in here. Right? Okay. And then you got one more. Oh, it already found its way. And if you got those in, you should have them all coming out back through here, right? Oop, lost it. And give it another shot. I got a freebie last time, so I had to work for it this time. What I would do is put it just past. I don't know if you could see how that's just past, or maybe right up to the T-nut, something like that. Should be fine. And tighten these down. Of course, make sure you only tighten those down if all these wires are clear and able to move. See how they can all move? You don't want to pinch anything in between the motor and the frame. This one you could tighten down at the moment, but don't overdo it, because that's going to be adjusted a bit. And then the final one. Okay. If you want, you can plug the extruder motor in. And then give it some room. Feed it through a little bit. Okay. Getting closer, guys. Getting closer. Should only have 2 more motors left. Take the next longest one, next longest wire, put it in next. And this one is going to face that way. It's also going to jump in with the other motor wires, the extruder motor wires. Like that. And there should be a little space there that is enough to clear. So, in order to get this one to seat properly, just make sure you're not compressing any wires behind it. Everything is still free to move behind it. Run these guys in. Check. This is your Z motor. See, it's a little bit tight, so it's making it hard to get the next ones to feed, I think. There it goes. Loosen that back up. You definitely want to snug these down. Snug, not crazy tight. Just till they basically stop. Stopped. They're stopped. Make sure these are good. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, not too much pressure. Alright, and we're ready for the very last motor. The shortest wire. And so that's going to go straight out the side, same direction as that one. Again, make sure the wires are seated down, and just set it right there. You can double check all your wires came through nice and clean, nothing got compressed. You're going to need I think that might be the last 4 in 3x8s. Again, be careful with a drill. If you take a drill and screw these things in, it could, as soon as they bottom out, it's going to flip the whole entire thing around. So I kind of lean against using a drill. Personally, I've done it and it's hard to control, and you can break stuff, break these bolts pretty easily. You probably guessed that goes in there. Make sure these can still move. There's should be enough room for you to get, you know, some play. I guess it could probably, yeah, make sure there's still room for play. These shouldn't move because they're attached to motors, except for this guy. And that is basically that. Now, what are we doing with the proximity sensor, you ask? You said, why do we leave that out? Oh, no. Endstop. Completely forgot the Endstop wire. Oh, my gosh, Nate. There's a way to feed this through. This Endstop is going to be sitting about right here. And if you did forget this, you can mount this right here and run the Endstop around this way and come back. There's plenty of room for it to go that way, but it's better if you run it on the inside of everything. I mean, it's just cleaner. I don't know if I want to dismantle this whole thing. Here's another option. Let's just see if I can get this to work. We're going to put this Endstop in with the... So I took off this little guy. We're going to see if we can't feed him with the motors. There's a little more room in the motor wire area. I don't know. It's going to be a tight fit. Okay, so you can pull that out maybe to get past any kind of critical area and try to get this to feed all the way down to the end. It's going to get tighter and tighter every motor you pass. Ah, I got it coming through. Well, it helps if you don't forget these. Yep, there they are. Okay, so they did come through. So there they are. That's good. Make things a little cleaner. Don't have to backtrack. Just be gentle when if you grab these. If you forgot and I didn't update the video, or you don't want to crush the clips. One thing I'm going to grab is a smaller set of needle nose, because this is tricky to get a hold of. That one, the yellow one, came no problem, but this one is really giving me the fits. It seems like I'm pushing it further away. Yeah, I don't know how entertaining this is. Sorry, guys. It's like hanging right there. It's just right on the cusp. On the cusp. I'd recommend. There it goes. Oh shit. Okay. I mean, crap. All right, don't do it that way. So I'm gonna have to repair that. Okay, pause. All right, guys, I'm back. Hopefully, I mentioned to feed these wires the Endstop for the Y table axis. Hopefully, you fed them through on the bottom with the motor wires. Should be plenty of room down there. And then, yeah, I had a wire break, so resoldered because I was trying to do it after the fact. Take the proximity sensor and feed it through that big, huge centerpiece. I don't know, it's just easier that way, I think. Let's see, we're also going to put a... I don't think you need a washer on the Y limit switch. You shouldn't need a washer because the plastic's 4 millimeters. The metal plates are 3, so basically anywhere there's a metal plate, you need a 1/4 millimeter, a 1 millimeter to offset it. But since that's 4, it shouldn't bottom out in the vertical frame. So we're going to go ahead and go on with the vertical frame. All right. Let's see. Vertical frame piece, the long one. How are we going to do this? So you need these two guys. You're also going to need 2, 3, 4. Four of these. You're also going to need 4 washers, 2, 3, and 4. And basically, I think it's probably easiest to assemble these first. Put a washer on an M5x10, and then put this T-nut. There you go. So you're also going to need 4 T-nuts. Another washer through. Right now, it doesn't matter. They both are going to have a washer and an M5x10. So it doesn't matter which side has the nubs and which side doesn't. We'll get to that in a second. Just get these guys all set up real quick. These can be kind of tricky because they have to be in the right position to be able to get the screw on them. You'll see what I mean. So again, another washer through the hole. So all 4 of the 90-degree holes have the bolt through and the T-nut on it, like that. All right. You may want to look at which side's the cleanest. The saw blade I'm using has a really nice cut on it. For 0 cleanup, it does really well. But basically, the flat side goes into the vertical frame. The flat side of the 90. And so these are going to sit really close to the bottom, both of them. So just kind of set them in there. Now you're going to see a lip there. You do not want that lip to be there. You want that to be as flush as possible with the 2040. Hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. This surface should be perfectly flush all the way across. Again, you're going to do that with the other flat side, the one that's been ground down. You're going to put that into the 2040. And both of these are going to face the same direction. I'll get you a better angle on that. So they're both going to face that way. As far as the amount of distance from the bottom, that... I'm not sure exactly that distance, but it's very small. You'll be able to tune this in a second. Okay. At this point, I go ahead and pull this nut, this T-nut off this guy. I think it's easier to not do it, but just have it ready. Then I would take this guy, send these T-nuts through the back of the frame. See where I'm going with this? All right. So send both those guys through. Remember, you got to have your washers on there. You got to have your washers on those bolts. So basically, here's what we're looking at now. Starting to get this thing assembled. I'm not going to tighten these all the way down, but you know, just kind of get them kind of down there a little bit. Just kind of snug them a tiny bit. And then this guy's really getting to me. Pull this guy off if he's bugging you. Remember, we got all this wire connected back here. But you can see what's going on here. We need to get that centered. And so I'm going to lean this on its back. I don't know if I could show you guys this part very well. But you're going to slide the T-nut in from the top. So that's the T-nut. And it's going right underneath that 2040. Or the angle. And then get it from this side. And again, the back ones are still kind of loose a little bit. But go ahead and get that snugged a little. Okay. Now this is important. This thing has to be square. It not only has to be square this direction, but it needs to be square coming to and from. And how we keep that square is by making sure this is snug, like it's as tight against this surface as possible. There's a few ways to go about that. You can do a trial and error. What I generally like to do is kind of tighten this guy up, loosen this, retighten, loosen, retighten. If you do that 2 or 3 times, if you do that 2 or 3 times, it allows the next one to kind of find its place. Here's an important note. This is actually too far down, so we're going to just barely loosen these guys. Same with this guy. Loosen that one over there. And let's go ahead and loosen the front. So this thing needs to get flattened out as flat as possible, because you don't do that, whatever I just did, don't do it. I lifted the vertical column and the T-nut came out on this angle. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, it's back in. Lost the other one. If something like that does occur, it might be easiest to dismantle instead of trying to re-stab the whole thing. It's not so bad to pull one nut out and slide it in. Okay, back to 0. The whole thing that we're trying to do here is make sure that this piece is perfectly flat with that piece. If you just visualize it and give yourself a little room, you're gonna get really close. Close isn't quite good enough. I mean, honestly, this thing has to be like really square. So I loosen that, retighten, retighten. Loosen this one, loosen, retighten, retighten. I don't think you can get it flawlessly flat down here. I'm not sure on that. You can get it really darn close. Looks like this side is... Basically, you just want to mess around with it until you get what you feel is solid. And then you want to start firming these things up. Again, double check that you're not protruding beyond the bottom frame. Give everything a pretty good snug. Tighten if you feel like it's in good shape. There's one other thing we're going to do. and that is to make sure it is square. Getting it square is important so that your prints don't lob off at an angle, kind of. And so to check that, you can literally get a square. Now if you notice, I'm a little bit to the right, so there's a few things you can do. You can loosen this guy. Yeah, go ahead and loosen them pretty good too, so that they're completely free. And you should be able to have like a little play back and forth like that. See that? Okay. That should be enough to make sure that your alignment is correct. So I'm resting this on the frame. That feels pretty good. And then what I want to do is tighten this in hopes that when I start tightening the back, they don't move very much. If I get one tight, I know that the frame won't move, and I can tighten up the other back one. Okay. Now, I wouldn't say that this is the professional, flawless, 100% foolproof way to be, you know, absolutely perfect, but you know, we are getting 99% square, and so I'll call that a success. Double check. This is really important that this is really tight, guys. You don't really have to like muscle it down, but you don't want these to not be snug. You want these to be more than a little bit more than snug. Yeah, that one had a little play in it. Yeah, so did that one. Okay, feel a lot better. That is a very solid support. All right. We're gonna go ahead and throw on these guys real quick, and then we're gonna. We're only at 12 minutes on the video. Tighten this up, get both sides if there are two. There could be slots. In fact, I think there are slots in there, so this guy, you can just tighten up one for the moment because we're going to have to adjust his height. This guy, just get about in the middle there. At this point, you can even put this guy on if you're feeling froggy. A little bit froggy there. If you're milling, you probably want to drop this all the way down against the bottom of the shaft. If you're 3D printing, you may want to have it just barely lifted off. I'm going to go ahead and drop it down. I like it that way. Can go ahead and put on the. I'm going to lift this up. See this guy. So he goes in that direction. Okay, and I think I showed this earlier. You'll just take this guy and put the wheels in there gently. Oh, we haven't tuned it. Okay, well, I might not be able to show you guys this quite yet, but basically what you can do, loosen up the back ones, these guys back here. So that these have play, and drop it over the top, and then so you're gonna just drop those guys over the top, drop that through, be gentle, something like that. It's sitting in there. Okay, and you can see that this is still too long, but like I said, it's best that we cut it a little bit too long than too short. And stop. I'll go ahead and put that on real quick. It's a fast thing. Endstop. No, we don't need that, do we? We don't need the washer. Oh, it's already got one. That's right. I just set that up. Okay, pull off the T-nut. Make sure this wire feeds gently. I'm going to take this T-nut and just drop it in there, but catch it with my finger in this slot. So from the top, just dropped it in, you know. This may not be the best way for you, but it sure works fast for me. Mosquito already. Wow. Tighten it up. Doesn't have to be super tight at the moment. We're just kind of putting it in place. All these Endstop switches will come pre-soldered for you, attached to the holders. So that guy's on there. And shorten up any of that length. Shorten up that length. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off because I don't want this hanging off here. Something like that. So I just cut off a little more. Just cut it flat, nice sharp knife, work it back and forth, let the blade do its job. You can then put in this little coupling into the front of the extruder body, or extruder block, I'm sorry. Just don't break the blue coupling. I mean, these guys are pretty cheap. These pneumatic fittings aren't expensive. Just try to get it threaded in straight. Let the threads do the work. Don't try to, you know. And it's going to start tightening up. And when it does get about there, just kind of let it, allow it to do its thing. When you feel like yeah, it's got a really good grip, it's not going anywhere. Then just these wires feed under, and that goes in there. This is your YZE motor wire. Show it in there. And we are getting really close. We've got a whole crap ton of wires hanging out here. Make sure that all of these are fed properly. And there's some room in there. I like to make sure that these are snug, and I also prefer to keep them tight into there. So make sure those are fed in well and that they come through as far as they're supposed to. Some of these wires aren't the depth that they're supposed to be, and perhaps these are. This is still cut too long, and it feels better. These wires should be like just the right length. I mean, I've been evaluating how far they should be cut to, so. Just be gentle when you pull. If you're trying to get extra wire to come through, just kind of wiggle it back and forth, and it should just allow them to slowly start working their way out on their own. I feel like I need another. The USB cable has one. Another twist tie. Taking out the camera. Cut this guy in half. I don't know. You could loom all of it together, but man, when I get to the laser head change, it'll totally make sense. And I bet we can come up with some other cool ideas to maybe incorporate auto leveling a little differently and the end stops a little differently so that there's a little less of this activity going on. All right, we're gonna go ahead and stop the video there so that I don't lose another chunk. All right, see you in a few seconds. Hey guys, we're back. All right, let's see. Something I hadn't done was tighten up. We're getting ready to install the table wheel plate, but I want to tighten up these wheels first. It's kind of the same process. You want to basically squeeze these together. On these two are the tightenable ones. These two don't move, so go ahead and make sure those are snug. These, on the other hand, they do move. So, it feels like they're already loose. Just squeeze them, rotate the nut. One thing you can do is kind of like take your finger, push on the backside of the bolt, push it inward, push this inward, so you're pushing the whole thing. Take your finger, grab the back of the plate or the wheel. You can also use your palm or something. And so you're holding this bolt tight. See, I'm up top here. Make sure there's no play in it. Feels pretty good. Yep, we're good. All right. At this point, you can also check your lead screw. See how it's tilting off this way up here? So one thing you can do is loosen this. And if it's loose enough, if you want to center that, you may have to adjust the belt, like loosen up the belt up here so that the belt has some room to play. Then push this guy out. There he goes. You have to give it a little more room on this belt. Okay. You can squeeze the belt together, or you can just try to push this guy straight. Yeah. So it looks like he should be a little bit closer to this side rather than that. He should be slightly off to the right. Be careful not to, when you tighten these, don't pinch your finger if there's a gap in there. That could be fun. Then you can twist this and make sure there's not too much wobble. Looks like there's a little bit of wobble to it. Figure out where that wobble's coming from. It's pretty slight, but there's still a bit. Maybe something like that. It feels a lot better. Okay, tighten those back up. Feel like it's pretty solid. Yeah, it still has some wobble. No. It's because there's play in this thing. There's play in this brass piece, just so that if this is off center somehow or another, it doesn't put strain on this and wobble this back and forth. So a little bit of play in here is okay. It's built to not have to worry about that perfection. All right. Because it kind of floats. If this is locked in place with some screws, you may want to try to make sure that that is as perfect as possible if it's locked in from underneath. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is put on this table plate. We already have scaled this to properly slide onto the table. So the wheels are already prepared, and these bearings go on this. Let me tilt this down a little. There it goes. Okay, so these bearings go on the side of that motor because the belt's going to run through here, around, and back out. So just like before, loosen these nuts up just a little bit. Basically, this whole entire thing is going to be loosened, except for the wheels. You don't have to loosen the wheels; they're exactly where we need them. But this thing's got to be loose. Yeah, not that loose, maybe. But it does have to have enough play in it that this thing can slide back and forth. I don't know if you can see that. So it's going to slide back and forth. I'm going to slide it in on the side. So first things first, we got to get 2 of these T-nuts. I'm just going to kind of manhandle the printer at the moment. You can start by getting the angle one, the 45 in there, or 45, the 90 bracket, and then get in the top one, first one. Hopefully you guys are able to see that. You're not, huh? So I started with getting this one, and see how I can tilt the table, so I can roll that second one into place. And if I wasn't trying to do this in front of a video camera, it would be a lot easier, so much easier. If I'm not trying to tilt it in just the right position. Okay, so both of those go in, then you can tilt it into a little better place. I'm not locking these down, I'm just kind of getting them a little bit snugger. Make sure this is loose enough. Yeah, that's loose enough. Okay, so they're all pretty close to tight, and then get the this final one, slide it in there as well. All right. Now distance here, let me see how this works. This will probably have to be adjusted at some point, but basically, if you put up the ramps holder, you're going to basically want to push this pretty far to the edge. This ramps holder, it should stick out about that far. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but let me tilt it a little. It should stick out like, yeah, about like that, where this piece of plastic right here sticks out just a tiny bit, about right there-ish, of 4 millimeters. And these wires have to kind of dodge some stuff, but there should be exactly enough room for this guy to sit right there. The actual distance here, I think, is like 23 or 25, or maybe it's 20. I won't worry about it too much at the moment, because that's actually looking like 30 millimeters. We're just going to kind of loosely lock. Now this is the last one that you lock down. You do want to kind of pull the bracket up, loosen that, get that top of that nozzle out of the way, tighten this back. So there's just a little bit of loosening and retightening just to make sure that this piece is snug against the back. You also want to make sure that it is straight, like perpendicular to the frame piece. So hopefully you can gauge these two distances. There probably is a way, using something, maybe like taking the power supply or something, and just getting a good view of of how perpendicular or how parallel this is to this edge. So get them the best you can. When you think you got it pretty darned, you can even measure the gaps here. You get it pretty darned, then you can kind of start to lock that down. Lock that down. I'm going to give you another view of this side. About the distance here. I think maybe that distance is a little more. Yeah. Let's move it out just a tiny bit more. Yeah, maybe something like that. Maybe something closer to 20 millimeters. I think it was like 20 to 23. All right, so continue. Making sure this is where I want it to be. There we go. All right. So I tightened the bottom straight one first to make sure that bracket down there is pretty solid. And then I can tilt this to accommodate, but I would almost, before I got the back two, I would almost kind of get this kind of loosely snug, then do a straightening, then lock and lock. And then this one, this final one is the last one. You're going to need to get needle nose, get in there, and that's on the top side. All right. Lock that down. If you take a look under there, there should be basically no gap in there. Also, you don't want any gap between the plate and the top. You don't want any gap between those either. Just trying to eliminate any gaps is what's important here, because those gaps will start to loosen up. If they exist, they'll start opening up over time. You definitely want to lock double check everything, make sure it's nice and snug. This one's a little loose still. All right. Okay. Where else are we doing here? This guy's on. I don't want to put the table on yet because we're going to hook up the electronics next. It's just basically a whole heap of wires. It's not that many though. It'll go a lot faster. Alright guys, onto the electronics. This is basically the ramps board. It'll have the Arduino, the ramps, stepper drivers. This is the E or extruder, X, Y, Z. So your X this is your X back and forth. This is your Y. Tilt this up. Your Y is your table. It travels this direction. And your Z is your lead screw, which raises and lowers the whole gantry. And of course E, your extruder. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and hook this up. It looks like a whole bunch of wires, but it's really not that many. The first thing you're going to do is attach it to the ramps board. If you're careful enough, you could really get these pins to seat. Like typically they'll just kind of sit there, but if you kind of give them a little push, not too hard, they should all kind of grab into position and be nice and flat. Then you're going to take 2 nylon screws. They might be nylon, they might not be. I've had no problems with the metal ones, and adding another part to the list of parts. I've already got like 50 parts here, so And it seems like the nylons just don't grab the same. They're just not grabbing the holes the same way as the metal 20. These are M3 by 20s, by the way. They're the same thing that the LCD screen uses. See, it just doesn't, it just rolls in there. I mean, it feels like it's attached though, but I feel like, yeah, I can just pry it off. So I may go with metal ones. I guess I could close those holes up a little bit, and that's probably what's needing done. In the G code, or in the design, these holes probably just need to be slightly smaller. Okay, we'll just pretend that that works perfect. Which on your printer it will work perfect. All right, moving on. We need 4 of these M5 by 10s. We are running out of hardware. We need 2 T-nuts. We need, I believe we need 4 washers. And we also need 2 M5. Now these M5 nuts are for the terminals. These are to these washers are for the terminals as well, but 2 washers, and no, just 2 washers for the terminals. These guys are to mount the ramps board, so you're gonna, since these are 4mm already, should be able to just run these guys. I really recommend trying to strip out this plastic see, suddenly it's tight now, right? So I would finish running that thread through just so that there's a looseness to it. This is another similar thing where you take the T-nut and you slide it in. You guys have seen that a few times now. The other side, right? Okay. This one's loose. It's designed to kind of have some play in it. It's like an oval. And there's a reason for that, which you'll see in a second. Okay, these nuts are for the terminals. I may have to tighten up those nut holders because those things feel loose. But basically, you put the washer on the bolt side again because you're basically going to compress the wire between the plastic, is what I suggest, between the plastic and the washer. Because if the bolt's touching it, the bolt's going to grab a hold of the wire and rip it around in a circle and pull it down and take the world by the horns and pull it down. But when you go out there, you'll find out that you don't amount. Okay, it's really getting late. All right, so you got some in there, you got some in there, you got there. Okay, yeah, you guys got it. Hurry it on up, Nate. This guy. Yep, you guessed it. So just slide that T-nut in. Now this is where we're coming to a hold, because this is basically how you would work. This is basically how you're going to work on your printer. Everything's going to fall. This ridiculous tiny little iPhone tripod. Cannot get it to stay put. Alright, we're getting close. Hang in there. I know, seasick. This is how you work on your printer. You can slide this, pop it into position with the, and then let's say you want to get in there and change something. You just loosen that nut, loosen this nut, and the whole thing slides out and folds down so that you can get access to your components. So you'll kind of like prop the printer up against the wall, kind of like lift it up and tilt it at like an angle. I know it's a little goofy, but hey. We can skip that at the moment. It's probably going to be easier to just hook up the wires. Okay, so we're going to start with, I guess, the thermistor. Thermistor is going to go shorted. Just try to do a test or something for thermistor. It's for your hot end. Maybe I can do something like that for you. There we go. These 6 are, the first 2 are T1 or maybe T0, and then T2, and that's going to be your bed, and T3 would be like a second hot end, something like that. So that plugs in there on the first 2 pins. If you got a heated bed, this would be a good time to have it ready. The time is now. Way past my bedtime. Okay, what I'm doing right now is pulling out the wires. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick loom, so I'm going to pause the video. Hey guys, just to update you on the build. I went ahead and cut off the remainder of that. Also, I only loosened this one, and this one, and this one. I did not loosen this, and now this table is able to slide back and forth so I can accurately position its distance. And how I'm going to do that, and how I recommend you do that, is with the table. So the idea is that the table needs to be a certain distance, so that's not going to work, right? It hits it. So let's just slide this guy a little further over, maybe something like this. Now it's also important to note that where that end stop is, so I don't think I need to go over just a touch more. And what I'm doing is I'm setting that V slot directly on the wheels and just making sure it's like centered on them. So I need to go a touch more than that. Let's just take it just a notch over. Just a tiny more. A little too far. Okay. So that's basically how it needs to be positioned. Give or take. Something about like that. So I know that that is about the right position on that. And you know, that distance will change based on how far that sticks out. If it's straight up to the T-nut, double check that it's still okay. Yeah, see, I'm checking the wheels, and then I'm verifying that it skips it. Got a lot of stuff going on here. And does that come to it? It's a little on the inside, so I'll take it a touch out. Basically, that's the way to do it. Double check that one more time. Oops, wrong side. So I'm just resting it on top of it. That's perfect. It's exactly where I want it. And once I get it where I want it, I'm gonna just take this guy and just plug it in where it's at, just to make sure it secures it. So I basically had to pull this guy back off. It didn't take but a minute or two to loosen it up, and I wanted to knock those extra wires off. So I'm going to go ahead and redo all that. I'm sure you guys don't want to watch, but I'll give you an accurate reading. If this T-nut is right up to that edge, then it should. I'll give you an accurate measurement here. Yeah, 30. Looks like it's about 30, give or take. 30, 31, something like that. Now we know. And that's if that T-nut down there, right here, if that T-nut to this bolt is flush with the edge of this, then that's what it should be. You should have 30 out here. Alright, I'll get back to you after I finish up reassembling. Hi guys, there was a little bit of a missing video. Another one got deleted. I know, it's ridiculous. So I'm going to, I lost the footage of how, everything connects up. So that's what I'm going to show you. Hopefully you guys have a clear enough shot. Here's how the wiring works. I'm just going to point to stuff. I think I showed you the thermistor. Might be easier for me to just pull this out. The thermistor goes here. This is for the bed thermistor. And then there's a red and black one here. If you can see those right by my fingernail. Those four are, so hot end thermistor, heated bed thermistor. Pardon me. This is your Z, this is your Z stepper driver, a stepper motor driver. So this is your Y stepper motor driver, X stepper motor, E. Your E is for your extruder. And so these wires, there should be 4 pins to power each of the motors. So you can see these black plugs. The red is always on the left. Red, left, red, left. And if you take a look at, if you take it this one also has red on the left for the extruder. And then it's going to be hard to see. I don't have a good light source coming from the angle. Might be a little better. Definitely look at the diagram, but how it's going to work is back here. Move these out of the way a little. The first set of pins going vertically are going to be your X minimum, and then there's another set of 3 pins. Those are for X maximum, and then Y minimum, then Y maximum, then Z minimum, Z maximum, and then you have another set of 4 at the very end that aren't used. So you're going to put your black and red one the furthest back of the 3 pins, and then same with the Y, so X min, and the boards will be marked with like an X negative and then a Y negative after you skip one. And then the Z, this is the probe, this black wire right here goes on the very farthest one back. And then let's go ahead and keep going. This little guy right here, this is like a white power lead. So these power leads run to the terminals. So we've got, I'm probably not going to solder these. It's much easier if they're unsoldered, and you just twist them together. And this is ground and positive, of course. And so your these two on your proximity sensor are going to output to the ground and power. The very back two are hot end on these screw terminals. These are hot end. It's called the D10. So the D10 does your first hot end. Your D9 does the either the fan, or we're gonna have a laser hooked up to that. And then D8 is your heated bed. So you can see the heated bed loom coming in here. And these white wires are your thermistor, so just kind of route them, and they go back where we were talking about before, back to here. So that pretty much covers it all. You got your minimum in stops, every other set of 3, starting with the farthest left, X, Y, and then Z. Extruder, X motor, Y motor, Z, X, Y, Z. Thermistor right behind the Z. When it comes to the Z motor, the ramps board can power 2 Z motors in parallel. It doesn't matter which set of pins you use. There's 2 rows of 4 pins. Then your power plug. So then the far back one's hot end, fan or pulse width modulation for the laser or for fan control, and then the D8 is the heated bed. Basically, you would have this back screw. It's back there. There it is. So this thing is going to be tightened somewhat, not snug, but enough that it can slide. And you're going to kind of crunch all these wires down, lift the whole thing up, and then in the back here, you're going to slide the T-nut into the back of the extrusion. Could be a little tricky. Everything's a little tricky on this. And then just let it hang down, because while you're letting it hang down, you are allowing the wire to have clearance between here. So that's why there's a little play in this back one. So you let it hang down, you push this into position, and position is basically with this hanging over. The plastic's gonna hang over the same width of this wall right here, and then push the frame down. Make sure they're both at the same level. Tighten it up like so. So that's pretty much it. We are finished. I'm going to go ahead and install the bed real quick. Right, like I was saying before, pull this part straight, slide it along around that side, and see there's just enough for me to grab a hold of and pull it on through. That's basically it. Put the back nut in there, grab that little piece of still is a pretty good amount. I guess I can show you, try to show you. Yeah, so there's still a pretty good amount of this material, so you just pull, kind of roll it around your thumb while you tighten that nut right there. So that's really all there is to it. And the bed is connected. And that's with the heated bed. Now you can see the limit switch is being hit, so you might want to adjust the height on the limit switch, but it feels pretty good. Something you got to watch out for is under here. You probably want to get these like some Kapton tape. I might try to get these taped out a ways for you. There's a few details I got to work out, but mostly it's wire routing. It's like routing the wires. It can be a little bit tricky to get everything. And you know, I mean, it's a pretty tight fit under here. I may flip these bolts. There is the ability for the round side of the bolts to be underneath instead of these square M5 nuts. So by flipping the bolts, it still has clearance. I've checked it. There's still clearance, but it's rounded under here, so you don't intercept the wires so easily. One other thing we got to do is drop the height of this so that it's, you can see it's not level. This needs to drop a little more. Go ahead and do that real quick. All you do is just you just move the table to position those where you need them. Just slide the table to bring the set screws into position, and we got it that fast. That's basically it. That is the printer. I guess I could go ahead and show you the power setup. So this is basically the power cord for the heated bed. What's going to happen is you've got ground and then positive and then ground and then positive on the last one. So they'll be pre-soldered and pre-split for you, and I'll even attach these on there for you just to be on the safe side. I'm going to try to get as much stuff pre-done as possible. So that just plugs in there. There's really no, what do you want to say, on-off switch on this printer. I'm going to plug it in. There it goes. Just a really tight fit on that. Tripod again. So there's really no on-off switch. This is the smaller supply. The bigger, I think it's inside. The model that I've tested that's working great is inside. But I can go ahead and power this one. It uses one of these guys. It may have a triple, like to be grounded and everything. I'm not sure on that, but they do have little lights. I guess we'll see what happens. Oop, I heard something. Well, we got a van. So we definitely got power to this guy. If I had my LCD screen plugged in, or the LEDs going down this thing, then you'd know that it was on and running. Of course, the green light says it is. That is it. That's the printer build. A little longer with the video camera going, but usually I can do it in about 2 hours. And this guy can be in front or behind. As long as it's just got a smooth flow to it. That's what's important. Alright guys, well, one more printer and one more printer. It's like super late. I'm not sure if you guys want to see my shop. Got a drill press, grinder. I'm gonna do the laser here pretty quick. This is my cutting area for pellet stove over there. Cutting area for the aluminum. And then basically, this is kind of how to get a good view of it all. I've got shelf space, storage space ready to go. Just a whole bunch of parts will be out here. This is all part counting, and there's going to be lots of storage for all the boxes of supplies. Plenty of storage. This is something cool. If you guys are still sticking with the video, this is that case from Harbor Freight. They're like 28 bucks or something like that, and this printer can break down and go into that case in like seconds, just about, once you get used to how to do it. Anyways, that's the end. It's like 2:30 in the morning. I'm like 2 hours past bed. Alright guys, have a good night.